Today is March 26, 2014, and we are interviewing Louise Burns at the Illinois Veterans Home in Quincy, Illinois. Louise is 98 years of age and was born on February 11, 1916. My name is Tracy Allgilvers, and I'll be your interviewer. Louise, could you state for the recording what war and branch of service you served in?
I served in World War II, and I served in the WAAC and also the WAC.
Okay. What was your rank?
Tech Sergeant.
Okay. And where did you serve?
I took my basic training in Miami, Florida, and then I was transferred up to Bearfield, right out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. And I was in the plans and training department.
Okay. Did you ever go overseas at all?
Yes, I did.
And where were you at overseas?
I was at Hastings Air Force Base, right out of Calcutta, India.
Okay. And when you were over there, did you get immersed in the culture and everything that was around you while you were stationed over there?
Naturally, we got immersed in the culture because we had little Indian women who were our servants, and they were called ayahs. And so we sort of picked up some of the way they talked and the way they acted and
that type of thing.
And their costumes, the way they dressed and everything.
Okay. Did you bring any kind of mementos back with you when you come back to the States from there?
I brought many things back.
Can you tell me one important thing that you brought back that you can remember?
Well, I thought the beautiful shawls that I brought back, which were cashmere, and I sent them to my aunts.
I bet they enjoyed them.
They were elderly, and they did. They were warm, and they used them over their shoulders.
When you were there, what was your job or your assignment?
My job, I was secretary to the Colonel of Air Force Movements. His name was Emery A. Boudreaux. He had been a captain in World War I, and when he went overseas, they made him a full colonel.
Wow. Did you see combat at all?
No, I did not.
Were you a prisoner of war at any time?
No, ma'am.
Were you awarded any medals or citations, and if so, what did you receive them for?
I received many medals, and I've written those on my
that information sheet that we have?
Information sheet.
Okay.
I can't remember all
Okay.
of it. I think there were probably 6 or 7 that I received.
Okay. So were you ever in any battles of any time?
No, I was not in any battles.
And this is a personal section. How did you get along with the officers and your fellow soldiers?
Very well, because I was the interface in between the officers and the enlisted men and my colonel. They would, if they wanted an appointment with the colonel, they would come to me, and I would go to the colonel and say, Major so-and-so wants to have an appointment with you, and so that's the way we scheduled it.
Okay. Did you ever feel any type of pressure, stress, or anxiety while you were over there?
Yes. We lived in a converted jute mill, and when they had taken all the machinery off of the floor and they stored it. And I have a picture there that you can see where they stored the machinery. And when we arrived and we had to walk into this jute mill, it was like going down an embankment. And I have claustrophobia. And I thought, I'll never be able to handle this. But it's surprising how you become adjusted.
Did you ever keep a personal diary while you were over there?
No, I did not.
Okay. Can you tell me about a couple of your most memorable experiences while over there?
Yes. One of my memorable experiences was that at the end of our service, Major General Hanley, who was head of the compound there, he thought the women had done such a good job that he wanted us to see the Taj Mahal at Agra. And so toward the end of our enlistment, he would permit 8 girls at a time to go down there with the captain. We could never travel without an officer. And that was one thing. And another time we had rest and recreation, because it was so terribly hot in India. After 6 months there, they would give you what they call R&R. And I was permitted to get on a little tiny train to go through all the wilderness of India up until the high mountains into Darjeeling. And it was so high up there that we could almost see Mount Everest.
Wow. Were you able to stay in touch with your family while you were over there?
Oh, yes. I wrote letters to my friends and my family, always.
Did you do or have something special for good luck while you were over there?
My trust in God.
Okay. Did you have plenty of supplies?
Yes, we had plenty of supplies. We had what they call a BX, you know, and they, when we came over, they had to start ordering cold cream and lipstick and all those sorts of things that they normally didn't have in the BX.
The women needed their supplies, right? What type of food was over there, and what was the food like?
We had whack cooks, so consequently everything was dehydrated mostly. All the butter and everything like that was dehydrated. And the people over there drank lots of coffee, and we had rice, and we had dehydrated potatoes, and the meat was usually canned beef or whatever it was. And vegetables had to be cooked very well, you know, because of the diseases. And there were only, when we could go out, there was only one restaurant that the government had sanctioned for us to eat. And I would say we had a very good menu.
Okay. This section has to do about R&R. How did you entertain yourself, and were there any entertainers that came to see you while you were in your units that would do any type of entertainment?
Yes, we had a dance pavilion, and we could go there at night and dance, and Tony Martin was there.
Really?
Yes, and he sang for us, and of course the boys were very jealous of him, and they would pitch pennies to him and everything. And then Tony came back and made $1 million.
Wow. What did you do when you were on leave? Did you travel while you were in the service?
Yes, I told you about my travels up to Darjeeling. And when we were up there, mostly we walked, you know, and just sort of enjoyed ourselves. And we had little ayahs up there, and we were in what they called an English compound, and they would give us breakfast in bed while we were up there and everything. And the food up there was different, a little different too.
Okay. Do you recall any particular humorous or unusual event that happened while you were over there?
Well, yes, when I was at Bearfield, we were living in barracks, and our barracks was, I would say, a mile from headquarters. We were way out in the field, and of course we had our own mess hall, and the girls, you know, then the WACs would cook, and we had very good food, and some of the girls gained a lot of weight. But anyway, when we always had bed check at 10 o'clock. We always had to be in bed and the lights were out. But one night, I would say close to bed check, I heard a roar, and I looked up, and here our master sergeant she was a girl from Texas, a large woman, very demanding, and we were all afraid of her. And she had a broom, and one of the young men had become an inebriated, and he tried to get into our barracks, and she used that broom, and she got him out quick, believe me.
My next question is, did you bring any photos? And just so the videographer knows, she brought a few things, and Junati, who is doing the court reporting from the courthouse, will be taking those to copy for her and will be included in her packet of information. This next section is about discharge and post-war. Do you recall the day your service ended, and where were you?
I was at Hastings Air Force Base right out of Calcutta when we were discharged to go back to the States. And I made an itinerary on one of my pages of how we got back. I flew over by plane, which means that I had seen a lot of the world.
Mm-hmm.
I flew from Miami, and then from Miami I flew to Casablanca, Africa, and from there I went to Cairo, Egypt, and I saw the pyramids. And from Cairo, Egypt, we flew to the Karachi, India, which is a seaport. And from Karachi, we stayed 2 weeks to be oriented and to wait for our clothing and everything that we would be using in Hastings Air Force Base. And from Karachi, why we flew to Cairo. I went to Hastings Air Force Base in India.
Okay. Did the war come to an end, or had you fulfilled your military service, and were others discharged with you when you were discharged?
When I was discharged, most of the girls desired a honorable discharge.
At the same time?
Yes.
Okay.
I did not know of anyone that stayed in the service. There was possibly some that stayed in, but I did not know of it.
Okay. What did you do in the days and weeks afterward? Did you resume a job or start a new career?
When I came back from India, I was very tired. And I came back around the 28th of November in '45. And I had lived with my stepmother all my life. She raised me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I came back home to her. And my aunts asked me what I was going to do. And I said, well, I think I'll take a month off. I'll take December off and try to get rested up. And I was very brown, the sun browned our skin. And I said, after the month is up, I'll make a decision where I'm going to work. And 2 of my farmer bosses wanted me to come back and work for them. One was in Erie, Pennsylvania, and one was down in Florida. And so I was kind of thinking about that. But in the meantime, my brother had been in the service, and he was married before he went overseas. And he had his right elbow bone shot away, and his health was not good. And so this one aunt that had an influence on my life, she said, Louise, you've got to stay home and help your brother. And I said, but I don't have a job in Quincy. She said, well, you're smart. You can get a job. And so I went to Mormon Manufacturing, where I would really have liked to work. But unfortunately, I didn't pass the test there. And so then I went down to Gardner Denver, and I was interviewed by a man by the name of W. Groves. And he asked me where I had worked previously. And I told him I worked in this ladies' ready-to-wear company called Sardison's. And he said, oh, he said, my father-in-law was the manager of one of their stores. And just like that, he hired me. He didn't even ask me to take a test or anything. And I said, Debbie, what do you plan for me to do? And he said, I plan to train you for accounts payable. He said, I have a young man that came here during the war from a bank. And now that the war is over, he wants to go back to the bank. And he said, he's going to train you for 2 weeks, and then we'll give you the charge of accounts payable. And so I worked for Gardner Denver from, I would say, January until around the 1st of April. Well, in the interim, I had a friend and his wife who were down in St. Louis in a Sunday school class. And there was another man there by the name of Mr. Thompson. And Mr. Thompson asked my friends, their name was Stagg, do you know a lady in Quincy that would be a good office manager for IBM? We're going to open an office there. So they said, well, they suggested me, but they didn't know what I was doing. And so that weekend, they contacted me at my aunt's home, and they asked me if I'd be interested in the job. And I said, well, Ed, I said, I have a job at Gardner Denver. And he said, well, he said, this is a wonderful opportunity for you. He said, this is a wonderful corporation. And he said, I think you'd be very happy. And I said, well, what do I have to do? And he said, well, you have to have an interview. And I said, well, where would the interview be? And he said, it would be at a hotel. And he said, there will be the new manager that's going to be in Quincy, and the nephew of the president of IBM, and his name is Mr. Love. And so they told me the time to be there, and so I decided to have the interview because I thought they were going to have an office downtown, and I did not have a car, and Gardner Denver was so far, and I had to go on the bus. So I took the interview, and Mr. Love accepted me. But he said, Miss Burns, he said, you are working, he said, for one of our customers. And we never take an employee away from a customer unless they agree to your release. And I said, in other words, if I do not get a release from Gardner Denver and you don't want me, I don't have a job. He said, that's the chance you take. And so I went to Debbie and I told him about it, Mr. Groves, and he said, well, you'll have to go to the higher echelon. And his boss, and so I talked to him and said, yes, Louise, it's a wonderful opportunity for you, and I will give you an adequate release from Gardner Denver. So I started with IBM then in April of '46, and I worked for them 32 years.
Wow. You took a big chance there. Amazing. So did you move to St. Louis?
No. We had our office in Quincy for 8 years. And then they decided there wasn't enough potential to keep a sales and a service office there. Mm-hmm. They would keep the service office because they had these two large customers, Mormon and Gardner Denver, and some small ones too. Mm-hmm. But the sales office would be worked out of Springfield, Illinois. And so they asked me where I wanted to work. They were wonderful to me. They said they'd make a job for me anywhere I wanted to go. So I decided on Springfield, Illinois, because the aunts that raised me were elderly, and I had an elderly uncle, and I thought from 100 miles I could help, and my brother lived in Quincy, mm-hmm. He and his wife, and he had 2 small children. And so I chose Springfield, and that's where I ended my career.
Okay. Did you at any point go back to school or use your GI Bill for education during that time?
No.
Okay.
I've never received any benefits from the Army.
Okay. Did you make any close friendships while you were in the service? And if so, did you continue to have a relationship with those people?
Oh, yes. And
how long?
In fact, I still have a friend that lives up in Wisconsin.
Really?
Yes, she's a year younger than I am. But my other friend that lived at Beardstown, Illinois, has passed away.
Mm-hmm. So was this friend that you still have, was she in India?
And no, she was not in India. She
Okay.
was in the States.
Okay.
And incidentally, she met her husband there in the States, and they were married in a service, and I was able to attend their wedding.
That's cool. Did you ever have any reunions that you attended with fellow service people throughout the years?
Yes. When we have a woman's memorial in Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they dedicated that, my friend from Beardstown, Illinois, and I went up there together.
That's nice. Did you ever join a veterans organization of any kind?
Yes, I did. I joined the veterans in Quincy, but then when I saw I was the only woman, I dropped out.
How has your service and experiences affected your life?
Well, I think it made me very flexible.
Mm-hmm.
I have had a lot of changes in my life, and I've always been able to accept them because I think I learned that in the service, to be flexible.
Has anyone ever thanked you for serving our country, and if so, how did that make you feel?
Yes, people have thanked me for serving, and I never really made an issue of being in the service. But if they ever found out that I was, they'd say thank you, to me.
Did your military experience influence your thinking about war or military in general?
Yes. I hate war.
Would you encourage young men and women to enlist today?
I hadn't thought of that.
Okay.
I think that is up to the individual.
Is your view of government the same before and after your years of service?
I've always voted, and I've always had a lot of confidence in my government. Sometimes when I read the paper, I become skeptical about some things.
How do you feel about how war is depicted in movies? And do you feel there's an accurate depiction of the war in movies?
I think some of it is reality, but I think other things have been glamorized.
What is your opinion of war/history that is taught in the school systems today?
I'm sorry, but I do not know what is being taught in schools today for war,
Okay.
I don't know.
What is the most positive thing you took away from your experience in the service?
Well, I think being able to accept people, different people. I had never gone to college, and this was really my college experience of being with all these women from all different states, and backgrounds, and I think it made me a little bit more tolerant too of everyone.
Okay. What is the most negative thing you took away from your experience in the service?
I can't think of anything negative. I just don't have a negative personality.
Okay. And this is your last question. Is there anything you would like to add or make a statement to all of the questions that we've asked? Anything you'd just like to say in general?
Yes. I'd like to say that I enlisted on my own. If I had been home where my family lived, I doubt very much whether they would have endorsed my going into the service. But it was the one thing that I wanted to do. I had a brother in the service, and I had 4 young men cousins in the service. And this is what I wanted to do, and I did it. And I've always been very happy that I served my country in its time of need.
Okay, is that it? I appreciate you doing this. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.